Is a plant-based diet appropriate for a modern heathen? If you want to honor the land, connect with your ancestors, witness the gods, and save Midgard, you're in the right place. If it's your first time here, consider subscribing and then hit that bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Welcome to I Was Initiations. I'm your host, Matt Sargent. Thanks for joining. Today we're talking about whether or not a plant-based diet can sustain a Norse pagan. I've seen it in a lot of the forums on Facebook and other places online where someone makes the claim that you can't be spiritual if you're eating the flesh of another animal. And a lot of times in the heathen groups, the Norse pagan groups, these people get totally derailed. I bring this topic up because if you've been following the channel, you know that my main goal is promoting heathens to take right action and justifiable action to make Midgard a better place. This is an honorable thing to do because it will make life better for your descendants, thus making you an honorable ancestor. And by learning to ecologically grow food, fiber, fuel, and medicine, which is the mainstay of what I kind of preach here on the channel, I'm glad some of you enjoy the message. Hopefully more of you will chime in and join the conversation. But if we're going to save Midgard, we need to take a look at how we fuel our bodies. As heathens, one of the biggest things that we need to do is to honor our ancestors. And there's a couple ways we can do that, and a couple ways that I promote honoring your ancestors in this series in general. One, it would be to try and live more like they did. I'm not saying we need to abandon technology. I love technology. I can't be anti-technology and on YouTube. That's just lunacy. But I don't know, is it? What do you think? But we need to become more in tune with how they lived, and that puts us in better connection with Midgard and Jord and all the inhabitants here on this beautiful planet. Another important part of being a modern heathen is honoring the land. We know to some degree that our ancestors were very closely connected with Midgard, with Jord, and there are a lot of elements of animism that are very deeply saturated in heathen context. So we also need to honor the land. So with those two main themes, let's go back to the question at hand. To save Midgard, we have to be more mindful of how we eat. To honor the land and honor our ancestors, connect with our ancestors, we need to live a little bit more like they did, try and provide more food, fiber, fuel, and medicine from our home as much as we can. Is a plant-based diet appropriate for a modern heathen? My answer, it depends, but I'm going to say not very likely. And I'm going to say this for a couple reasons, but it's all going to be based on your context. First off, you, do what makes you feel good and feel healthy. But in the context of saving Midgard, in my experience and from what I've seen and learned, there are a lot of benefits to having animals, especially livestock, managed livestock, on the land. You can really help complete fertility cycles by having animals especially small livestock animals such as chickens and rabbits. The manure makes great fertilizer. Rabbits are a really good one for even an urban homesteader or a small homesteader because they have a very small footprint. And if you check out the book Beyond the Pellet, I'll have a link to that in the show notes. You can feed a rabbit with a lot of weeds that grow on your property or that you can forage for relatively easy, not have to buy any food. And rabbit poo, when you're talking about manure for the garden, it doesn't get any better than rabbit manure. Going back to the plant-based diet thing, the further south you are, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to provide all your food, fiber, fuel, and medicine without having animal inputs or without requiring animal protein in your diet. You have a longer growing season, you can grow a larger variety of crops, you can get a more diverse profile of fatty foods and plants. Like avocado is really good for you. That said, avocado doesn't grow here in Montana, and lipids are important for your nutrition. And in case you can't get where I'm going, what's best for Midgard is to eat as close to your house as possible, ideally providing all your food from your house. I realize that's not a reality for everyone, so the next best thing is to eat as local as possible. That way you're, one, supporting your neighbors, and not, someone halfway across the world. But two, you're also really cutting down on the food miles, how far that food has traveled to get to you. Ultimately, what I think the best diet for a modern Norse heathen is the diet you can provide yourself or supplement with local foods. And like I said, more than likely, the further north, or if you're south of the equator, the further south you go, the more likely animal protein is going to be a part of your diet, because it's something that you can procure year round. It's very hard to go out and harvest apples in January, or squash. Squash is a great storage food, and I definitely think that a large majority of your diet should be plants. That's the vast majority of what our ancestors did eat, supplemented with animal proteins at certain times of the year when it was easier to procure those animal proteins. And make sure you check out this video on your screen if you want to learn more about harvesting food from your own property.